Are you ready for some action? Hello and welcome to the Goodyear 2023 FIA European Truck Racing Championship. It's so good to be back here at the Slovakia ring. We are here in Orechowa Poton, which is 45 kilometers away from Bratislava, which is the capital of Slovakia. So everyone is getting prepped for the first qualifying this weekend. We do have 2 qualifyings for you and of course 4 races. And we are so happy to be back here in this triangular shaped track. It's 5.99 kilometers for all the giants on the road, and of course preparation for all the program all around is taking place. If you see some cars around us, but we are of course focusing on our trucks, and they're right now here lining up as well. As you can see, this is number 44, which is Steffi Halm, and she had birthday yesterday, so we say congrats Steffi Halm. Small party because she wants to celebrate after the weekend, of course. And we will have a lot of more highlights coming up this weekend. But before we do that, we want to have a look back at the highlights from Italy, Misano.
Hello everybody, Chaz Draycott here for another race weekend in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and boy didn't we get the racing off to a fantastic start in Italy at Misano. It was wonderful to be back there for the start of the championship in very, very difficult conditions. It started raining, of course, throughout the beginning of the weekend, and our thoughts go out to all of those affected by the horrible flooding that was going on during the week. But the spirits were high in the paddock at the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And they weren't so high early on for Norbert Kirsch and the team. After a fantastic pole position in qualifying, he was out of the very first race of the championship, and so too Steffi Halm after a massive failure later on into the race, which cleared the way for Jochen Hahn to take another victory in an incredible career for Jochen and the team. And of course, on a time where Iveco unleashed their amazing electric truck, the first time a racing electric truck has been seen, they unveiled it to the world in a paddock on the Friday night. As you see, though, the rain was back with us for race 2, but that only meant one thing, and that was that Norbert Kirsch could storm through the field from 13th on the grid and take a win. It was lovely to see a fantastic array of show trucks once again. They're always absolutely filling the paddock in Italy, and the lights and music and all sorts going on was a lot of great entertainment on the Saturday night. And then Sunday came around and the sun was back out, so everybody was in high spirits and once again looking forward to more racing action, and the drivers were ready to do battle on the circuit once again. Some of the new faces in the championship this season were really working hard as well to make ground in the early stages. Unfortunately, Liri Rakwenko's race was cut short after a humongous component failure. Something fell off over one of the curbs, we believe, later on in the race. But race 3 had business as usual, we could say. Norbert Kirsch taking another race victory, his 81st in the championship, and his 171st time on the podium. We had the amazing Krona E-trailer, which is doing its mission record run this year around all the circuits that we go to. It's an electronically powered rear axle trailer with up to 700 horsepower at peak output, and we're going to be taking that trailer around Europe with us to really showcase the amazing technology. Race 4 was a little bit more argy-bargy and a little bit more action-packed in the afternoon, which was certainly great entertainment for us all. But the man at the front was Antonio Albertetti. Antonio taking his 108th win in the championship.
And Antonio Albertetti is right beside us, and right now he will have his first steps on this track on the Slovakia ring today. Of course, the leader of the pack is Jochen Hahn with 45 points, and right behind those two there's Norbert Kirsch, of course, celebrating with lots of fans this weekend. We're so glad to be here. Qualifying is ready to start. We're just waiting for the lights to turn green, and as you can see, Team Löwenpower is right behind. And Luis Rakwenko, as Chaz Draycott mentioned, had some problems there in Misano, lining up, of course, but he has to wait until the contestants are right ahead of him. So let's go. Let's take a look at the qualifying. Have fun with Chaz Draycott. Good to hear our English commentator, Joachim Eberts, German commentator, and Fonsi Cabrian. Have fun, guys.
Thank you very much, Christina. Yes, hello, everybody. It's fantastic to be back. I'm unfortunately not on site this weekend at the Slovakia ring, but I am at home in my studio in the UK, commentating remotely on the action once again. And a big thanks to everybody at Vega Solutions who sort out the broadcasting and all the commentary for us that make it so easy for me to do my job and still love the action and the racing from here. As you see now, then, the trucks are going out in championship order for this qualifying session. That's the way that they all sort them out for these initial sessions. And then over the course of the weekend, they continue to do that. In Super Pole, they will actually go out in the order that they finished this qualifying session, if that makes sense. So there is some bragging rights and at least some merit to be earned from going fastest in this initial session. The Slovakia ring is a very interesting circuit. They're a really unique track, actually, for us here in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And one of the best things about it, well, about the series, I should say, is that we go to a lot of circuits that you don't normally see on other racing calendars all around the globe. Obviously, there's a lot of requirements to accommodate truck racing and to sort of deal with the amazing machines that we have here, and you obviously have to consider the worst sometimes, that if one of them goes off and hits a barrier, that the circuit is prepared for that. You know, there's some that only deal with cars racing rather than just trucks, so we have a unique selection of circuits on our calendar, but it's great to see that they have us back, and we love these venues that we go to because it really does showcase some of them in a great light, I have to say. So, the Slovakia ring, then, 14 corners on this circuit, and a lot of them very long, smooth radius corners, which actually I've read a lot about GT cars and touring cars struggling here, especially rear-engined or mid-engine GT cars that really have a problem with these long, sweeping corners because of where the weight in the vehicle is and how hard it is to get the thing rotated. There's a load of our lovely fans, I should say, in the grandstands down the start-finish straight. But yes, 14 corners to deal with, nearly 6 kilometres long this circuit as well. So it's a very, very long track, and the lap times here will be nearly about 3 minutes by the time the trucks have got to the end. The race lap record, which I will be reminding you about this weekend because I'm pretty sure we can get it beaten because it's not too hot like it was last year. It was nearly 42 degrees Celsius last year at the Slovakia ring. It was unbearably hot, but this time it's a little bit better off by the look of it. Norbert Kish did a 2:42.803 in the race in 2017 in his Mercedes Actros, and that remains to this date to be the race lap record. That was the first time the championship had visited the circuit as well in 2017. Last year, though, in 2022 in the race, he did a 2:42.884, so he was only about 0.08 of a second off it, so it came very close to breaking the lap record. However, when you look at Super Pole last year, Norbert Kish went nearly a second quicker than the lap record, doing a 2 minutes 41.905. So the pace is definitely there, but of course, for it to count as a lap record, you have to do it in the race. I'm pretty sure that gentleman just put his binoculars on upside down. Anyway, everybody now taking their time to make their way around the circuit, get into a potential bit of clear air, and get ready to go. And Jamie Anderson is back with us, which is great to see. Jamie is there in the middle of the pack in the number 33 machine. He was away for the first round of the championship as his wonderful wife Ella was having their baby. So Jamie comes into this next round of the championship with high hopes, of course, to bounce back after a great 2022 campaign which saw him take his maiden win in the championship and then 3 more. Here's Jochen Hahn, championship leader at the moment in the number 2 machine, making his way around turn 1, the long sweeping right-hander at turn 1. Very, very high-speed corners here in Slovakia, and this humongous long start-finish straight. It really is a massive start-finish straight, very wide part of the circuit as well. I'm pretty sure it's based on an old runway, actually, or it's where an old runway was, because there's a military sort of museum just off the final corner at turns 11 and 12, sorry, 13 and 14, where there's a lot of helicopters and, you know, defused missiles and things that you'll be able to see in the background. A little bit of a lock-up there from Mark Taylor in truck number 81. Mark actually comes into this round of the championship as teammates with John Newell. We do have a teams championship in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, so some of the drivers, while they obviously have their own teams working on their own trucks, they do tend to team up with each other and sort of pair up and take each other on in a teams championship, which is lovely to see. John Newell and Mark Taylor teaming up simply as Newell and Taylor for this championship. They're 5th in that at the moment out of the 5 teams, but they're only 10 points behind Sasha Lenz and Jamie Anderson. Sasha, of course, the only provider of points after the first round of the championship. It's Norbert Kish and Antonio Alberthetti as Ravesh and T-Sport that lead the way on that, with 78 points over Jochen Hahn and Steffi Helms, 65 points. They team up as the Bullen von Iveco. As you can see here, one of the beautiful things about Slovakia Ring is that we're going to get these shots all weekend where there's trucks seemingly going in all directions all the time. Because this track has an infield that goes back on itself twice at least, you will have these amazing shots where a truck will go from right to left through shot, you'll have another one in the background going left to right, and then you'll have vice versa once again. It's great to see. That was Jochen Hahn there, just coming out of turns 11 and 12. There's a long hairpin near the end of the lap. That is turn 11 there that Norbert Kish is going around now. Then you've got to manage the weight transfer, throw the truck over to the left-hand side at turn 12, and then go over one of the many long humps here at Slovakia Ring. One of the key features of the circuit was that the hump down after turn 2, the second hump on the circuit, was actually remodelled after a while because there was a GT car, I think it was in 2014 or 13, that actually flipped over completely. It was a mid-engined car. I'm not sure if it was an Audi R8 or something along those lines, maybe even a Ferrari. But because of the aerodynamics of the car and having a lot of the weight over the rear end, the car went over the top of the hump and then just completely flipped back on itself. So they had to dumb it down and make sure that it didn't happen again, basically. Now, just to show you the pace that we've got here, the top 3 lap times at the moment, the top 2 lap times from Norbert Kish and Antonio Alberthetti are enough to set a new lap record here, but obviously it's not been done in the race. It's a 2:42.333 by Norbert Kish, 2:42.673 for Alberthetti. Jochen Hahn is in 3rd place at the moment with a 2:42.851, then a 2:42.9 for Sasha Lenz. Jamie Anderson is 5th at the moment. Let's not forget that Jamie is not in the Promoters' Cup this season. He's now in the Titan category because of where he finished last year. He's no longer classed as a Chrome driver. Basically, take it as Pro and Am for this championship. So Jamie is up there now in 5th place overall. The highest placed driver in the Promoters' Cup is Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, who leads that championship coming into this round as well. Andrei Kurzim 7th, ahead of Steffi Helm, Stefan Faas and Louis Riquenco. And then the other drivers not currently going through into Superpole by the look of it are John Newell and Mark Taylor. They're in 11th and 12th place. Seems like we don't have Jonathan Andre out there on the circuit. Don't believe Jonathan is racing with us this weekend, unfortunately, but I don't see him coming through on the timing screen anyway. So we're down to the 12 trucks for this round of the championship, it seems. It's great to have Jamie back in this wonderful new livery as well in the number 33 machine. And as you can tell, he's very fired up to have a good go at this championship, and he's in the overall category this season. Doesn't have to worry about who's in his class and who's not in his class as the race weekends progress. He can just go at it completely and give it his all. And there he is, number 33 for Anderson Racing. I was actually wearing one of their team T-shirts yesterday, actually. They were very kind to me at the Nürburgring and gave me a shirt for a picture, and then apparently they didn't want it back. Anyway, Norbert Kish, currently fastest. Truck 1P1, once again, the gorgeous Baloo, the big red machine. They've got this bright green sort of coupler on the back of it, which certainly stands out. And then they've got this different rear end on it this year with the black livery, where it sort of fades and has a nice gradient into it with the checkered flag pattern over the back end of the truck. A lot of the liveries that have changed this weekend have looked, this season, have really taken a step up in the liveries. And to be fair, I think Mark Taylor was to blame, because Mark Taylor unveiled that livery towards the end of the 2022 season when he said he was going to come into the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and everybody saw it and went, wow, that looks absolutely awesome. We really need to up our game here. But the preparation and, of course, the designs on these trucks, really, really beautiful for this season. We're loving it. There's another one with some different splashes of colour on it this season. The always beautiful number 24, Tankpool 24 Scania of Stefan Faas. They've got this bright yellow area around the back of their truck for this season due to one of their sponsors, Man Filter, the yellow and green branding. We also don't have Heinrich Clemens-Hecker here this weekend as well, which is a shame. He'll be back in Poznan. So we look forward to seeing him again for the following rounds. where the grid will be a little bit more beefed up, let's say. Jonathan Andre is a race-by-race entry, of course, so won't be competing at every single round. There's that military sort of museum thing that I mentioned in the top right. You can see some helicopters and I believe an aircraft there, which I was going to say might be a MiG-21, but I doubt it is. Not sure. Maybe someone can go down there and confirm for me, but it doesn't really matter in this, this situation, does it? A lot of the trucks now, you will see, will head to the pit lane, because once they've completed their laps, they'll be happy with them and they won't want to really improve much more. But you will see some of them know that they have to. Mark Taylor has to get on with this. He's 1.4 seconds off Louis Requenco, and he wants to make sure that he gets through to Superpole. Louis Requenco going through as well to make sure that he can put another time on the board, because if then Mark beats him, he wants to make sure he's out on track for it, as John Newell runs a little bit wide there through the right-hander. I believe that was down at turn 1. Over the crest at turn 2, you can see why GT cars flip over those humps, can't you? It's massive, and that's the sort of dumbed down version of said hump as well. John Newell working hard though to continue improving. He was saying it. I bumped into him briefly in Misano, and he was saying that he was happy with the performance as it was going, but he wasn't completely happy with how the truck was behaving at Misano. So the fact that they could still put in some pretty challenging times was very reassuring for him. Looking nice and stable there on the brakes. Down into turn 8, which is the long... Well, it's actually one of the shortest hairpins on the circuit. I apologise. Turn 9 is one of the longest corners on the track. Really long 90-degree right-hander. Turn 2 is basically a larger version of it around the outside, going the other direction. Here's Mark Taylor. He's got Louis Requenco not too far behind him on the circuit. You can see that John is really, really trying now. He's pushing on big time, and he has to around here. This is one of these circuits where commitment is the real key element of a driver's persona, let's say. You have to be completely committed around here because of these corners being so long and smooth. They're not short, sharp apexes that you can just smack against and then get a good exit on. You have to be really balancing the truck all the way around the circuit. And for those of you that don't know, these trucks are 5.5 tons still, so they are not light by any stretch of the imagination. 3.5 tons of that almost is weighed over the front axle. So with very little weight over the rear end, you have to be so careful on the throttle. John Newell's time, I can tell you, was an improvement. It was a 2:46.8, but that is still 1.2 seconds away from Louis Requenco ahead of him, so he's not able to break the deadlock into 10th place there. We've got a couple of drivers coming around the final corner now, but we're just going to go quickly down to Christina.
What would be a nice present for you on sports side this weekend?
Yeah, you know, the biggest present would be a podium, but at the moment we are fighting very hard with the setup. But now the feeling in the qualification was good. I was just a little bit too slow because the difference was that big comparing to the free practices and the warm-up. So I hope I can make myself a present, and we will fight for that.
Thank you very much and good luck. So small setup problems, but of course he's optimistic as always.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be very optimistic around here at the Slovakia ring. As we saw last year, you never know what can happen around here. It's a really unique circuit, and I absolutely love it here. Great place to be for truck racing, if you ask me. It's a very different challenge to a lot of the tighter and twistier circuits that we go to. There's a lot of different direction changes here, but still, there's just something about this place and the high-speed elements to it that really does demand a lot from the drivers. Thankfully for them, though, it's not as hot as it was last year. I think somebody said it was nearly 65 degrees in one of the cabs last year when we were sitting waiting to get going for one of the races. And that's Celsius as well, not Fahrenheit. It was ridiculously hot last year. at the Slovakia ring, and to be honest, it was the same sort of weekend when it was red hot here in the UK as well, and it's still pretty warm here in the UK, which is nice to see. And speaking of the UK, we're going to speak to one of our very own drivers from the UK. Jamie Anderson is with Christina.
Yes, absolutely. And as you know, Chaz, you're a father as well. The biggest joys of our lives are our kids. And we do say congratulations. You became a father of a son recently. Congrats. And how is it to be driving with less sleep than ever?
Yeah, it feels good. We've had a few breaks, but he's been as good as gold, really, to be honest with you. It's been really good. And the last few weeks have been stressful, especially when we worked up to Misano, seeing everybody else there. But, there's some other things in life that you have to take care of instead. But no, it's been brilliant, and I wouldn't change back any time that we've had.
Absolutely. How is the setup right now going on with you?
Yeah, it's good, just feeling a bit rusty. But other than that, really good. We feel fine, we feel back where we was last year, so hopefully we can still perform like we did last year. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. New Titan driver, Jamie Anderson. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chaz.
Yeah, great to hear from Jamie. Awesome to have him back on the grid as well, obviously in as much of an unbiased way as possible. But we've got John Newell across the line now. He has improved on his time once again with he's just going on to a fast lap now. My apologies. It's actually Mark Taylor that's just gone across the line in the background as well, and he hasn't improved there. I think Taylor might have had a lap removed, because I thought for a moment that Mark popped ahead of John on the timing screen. But Mark now coming down into turn one, and it's the two British drivers that share the circuit at the moment, as Louis Riquenco, there he is, into the pit lane. So he's done everything he can do by the look of it in that gorgeous green Iveco. It's got this real mean look to it, hasn't it? It's not got too much going on in terms of a livery, but it just looks great in that dark green colour. Certainly suits it. Here's John Newell in the MAN. Very tidy example of this racing truck. I had a very good look round it at Misano when we were organising the grid photo shoots. I had a good chat with some of his team as well. They're a lovely bunch of people. Same with Mark Taylor's as well. It was the first time that I'd actually met Mark in person at Misano. I've covered a couple of rounds of the British Truck Racing Championship as well, which Mark has competed in for many years, but haven't actually had the chance to properly meet him within one of the paddocks yet. So it was really, really good to finally see him and his team at Misano. On the left of your screen, you can see the top 10 qualifiers there highlighted in green, so they will be the ones that go through into the next 10-minute Super Pole session, which will then organise their positions on the grid. Everybody outside of the top 10 in these initial qualifying sessions basically gets locked into wherever they finish. So Newell and Taylor battling for 11th and 12th at the moment, and if either of them go 10th or even better, then, of course, whoever gets knocked down will then stay in that position where they end up. There's Jochen Hahn, current championship leader, coming into this. Third place in the initial qualifying session. That's good enough, because he'll still have a decent amount of room around him on the circuit. Sasha Lenz up in fourth. He's teammates with Jamie Anderson for this season, so they'll be happy to both be up there within the top five. There's some of the fans sat outside the circuit on the banks. There's a lot of great banks around here, actually, and wonderful vantage points for people to watch from. It really is a very open, flat circuit, which is what leads me to believe that it was built on where an old airbase was, or at least an old runway, because of the fact that it is so flat and vast. There you can see just how far away John Newell was there as he came around the final corner in the background. And there is the wonderful rear end of the Iveco, I believe it is. There's the rain lights on the back, and you can see just the size of said rain light as well. You've seen how bright they are before, especially at Misano. They really, really do shine bright. As John Newell crosses the line, does improve again, a 246.411. But again, it's not quite enough to get into the top 10. He's still 7/10 off Louis Riquenco. And Mark Taylor's lap time is a 248.639, so he hasn't improved either, actually. It looks like they're going to be both staying there as well, because it's so hard to do consecutive fast laps in these machines. You really have to cool them down and get everything in a decent operating window before you then go for it again. But John Newell is certainly pushing on, isn't he? You can tell. there's another close look of Jamie Anderson's machine. Of course, Goodyear providing all the tyres for the championship as well as being title sponsor. They provided a very solid platform of amazing rubber for us to go racing on in the last couple of years, and it's great to have their support. John Newell just coasting around. I say coasting, obviously he's pushing very hard, but you can just see it's all about maintaining a certain speed around a lot of these corners here with their long radius. You don't want to go in too deep and then spend the rest of the time trying to correct. And look, he's done just that there, actually, down at turn 8. You can see the back end steps out slightly. It can only take a gear change or a little stab of the brakes to change that and really upset it. Great to just watch the trucks making their way around, though, and navigating what doesn't look like a really tricky circuit on the outset, but when you do see how hard that they've got to push in every single corner, you really get an idea of just the commitment levels. And you can see that John, unfortunately, has backed off now, and that can only be Sasha Lenz's truck with the bright green chassis rails and roll cage and other highlights. That's the Apollo Tyres machine, truck number 3. Sasha, of course, changing colours this season as Apollo become his title sponsor. It's great to still have them on the grid after they've supported Shane Brereton for many years. There's John Newell then coasting to the end of his session as Mark Taylor goes past him into turn 13. It's almost 270 degrees is to turn 13. You go completely around and back on yourself. And then across the line. So there is Mark. That's one of my favourite camera angles in the championship, that from up there. As the trucks lean on their right-hand side, flinging it around to the left. Across the line goes Mark Taylor. And it is not an improvement at all, actually. He's quite a while off. He's 2.4 seconds off his best time there. So he was still pushing right to the end. But it's going to be John Newell and Mark Taylor that are out of this first qualifying session of the weekend, unfortunately. So going through into Superpole, we will have Norbert Kish, Antonio Albacete, Jochen Hahn. That's Antonio Albacete's truck, I can tell you that. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, I got it wrong. It's Stefan Faas. Normally, you can always see the branding of the Nissan's radiator on Antonio Albacete's truck. That'll teach me to get gobby, won't it, and think I know it all. So it's Norbert Kish, Antonio Albacete, Jochen Hahn, Sasha Lenz, Jamie Anderson, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, Andre Kurzim, Steffi Halm, Stefan Faas, and Louis Requenco that will be going through into Superpole 1. And in just a moment's time, I imagine the trucks will be getting prepared towards the end of the pit lane in the order that they just finished that session. I mentioned before that in the first session of the weekend they go out in championship order, and now into Superpole they go out in the order that they finished the first qualifying session of the day. And already Norbert Kish is on lap record pace if he can keep that up into the races later on. 2:42.803 is the race lap record here in Slovakia, and he did a 2:42.333. And we're just going to go back to Christina in the pit lane.
Here with the best of the Chrome drivers, currently on P6 ahead of Superpole, which is José Eduardo Rodrigues. Próxima de andar de Superpole, para qual lugar?
Vamos ver, vamos dar o nosso melhor. Estamos em 6º lugar, mas pretendemos subir mais na classificação e tentar obter o melhor lugar possível para a corrida.
So he says, yeah, absolutely. We're right now on P6, but we're, of course, trying to get even further up front and get some more points in the championship. So he's very successful right now. So o melhor categoria agora seja, claro, de conseguir andar mais perto, mas como é que é de andar entre estes todos Titans?
É muito duro, os pilotos são muito fortes, mas é bom para mim, para ganhar ritmo e aprender também. É a primeira vez nesta pista e vamos tentar dar sempre o nosso melhor e alcançar o melhor resultado possível.
É a primeira vez nesta pista?
Sim, sim.
Obrigada. So you said, absolutely. I'm just in between all those Titans. They're so strong opponents. They're very, very tough. But he's focusing on himself, and he said, it's the first time for me on this track, and so he's trying to get his elbows out. But he's really successful at this moment right now.
Yeah, he's had a fantastic start to the championship as Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, reigning French champion as well, French truck racing champion. And I mean, any of us within the paddock will all agree that when we saw him at the Nürburgring last year, when we had the International ADAC Truck Grand Prix, he was just on another level. It was unbelievable, the pace that he had. And then obviously making the step up this season into the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. It's been great to see that he still has that amazing pace and is right up there at the top of the Promoters' Cup. There's the view from the left rear quarter of Stefan Fass's number 24 Scania, the Tank Pool 24 machine. There's some more fans lounging on the banks out on the outside of the circuit. There's a lovely shot there, actually, of some of the fluids around the truck being pumped around as they get going. That is Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. It's very handy that Christina can speak so many languages as well. It's something that I can't really do, to be honest. I can barely speak English, to be honest with you, but it's wonderful to have Christina as part of our team. Great to have her back on the grid and on your screens today, down there on the grid, doing the legwork and making sure that everyone gets spoken to. There's some selfies being taken there, I believe. Either that or they're very interested in trees, as the trucks now make their way out onto the circuit for Superpole once again. It's going to be great to see all of these machines back out there, giving it their all towards the end of the session. It's nice and quiet out there on the circuit just now, as they were making their way to the end of the pit lane, so they were being organised into the correct order based on the first qualifying session. More selfies been taken, or again, more interest in horticulture. But as you can see, there is a bit of a heat haze about it, isn't there, on these shots? So you can tell that it's definitely not a cold day out there. It may not be the clearest of skies at the Slovakia ring, but I tell you, it's going to be very, very warm and very, very humid over at the weekend. Apparently, it was quite unstable weather, though, the other day. There was a little bit of rain in some of our sessions that we had, so drivers have had some running in all sorts of conditions so far. Out of the pits they go then. Norbert Kish, Antonio Albertetti, Jochen Hahn, Sasha Lenz, Jamie Anderson, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez was next up after him. And the air horns sound as the trucks get going once again. Lovely stuff. Andre Kurzim's making his way out onto the circuit as well. In 7th place behind him, I believe, yes, it was Steffi Helm. Then Stefan Fass in truck 24. And then Louis Riquenco next up behind that. So the initial warm-up laps will be completed now. And this is important for the drivers to get some temperature in the tyres, not overdo it. Make sure the brakes are at a decent operating temperature as well. We have water-cooled brakes in this championship, so over the course of a weekend, you may see a lot of steam coming off the front wheels and from behind the cab when they come out of corners, because they are actively spraying water jets onto the brakes to cool them down. You do sometimes get the brakes sort of going through too much of a temperature change and cracking as well. Due to some contact in races, they can get weakened slightly. I remember speaking to Jamie Anderson at Le Mans last year when he had a cracked brake disc, and it's unbelievable. When you say crack, you think, maybe a crack the size of your finger. That's not very big, but we're talking maybe a foot long this crack was, and it was a good inch wide. It was basically a hole in the brake disc, but obviously everything is bigger in truck racing, and unfortunately for some of the drivers, the failures are just as colossal as well. Antonio Albertetti is one that knows about failures. He had a massive engine failure at Moss last year, which started a humongous engine fire. Luckily, everything that there was in the engine to burn was gone very quickly, so the fire was out almost instantly, but it was not a pretty sight at all. But still, very dramatic, and as long as everybody is okay, it's added drama for the fans that we can all enjoy, really. It's the drama of motorsport, isn't it? We all love it, and it's why we're here, and it's part of the trials and tribulations. Norbert Kish went through them as well at Misano, having an electrics failure in the very first race of the season. He said that he was able to get the truck restarted again and get it going, but obviously under race conditions he wasn't able to. He had to get out and go over the barrier and stay out of harm's way. There's Antonio Albertetti making his way around the circuit, winding up for another fast lap attempt. Down in towards turn 10, the hairpin at the bottom of the hill. It's one of the key braking zones on the circuit this weekend is turn 10. You're going to see a lot of overtaking manoeuvres down there. round the right-hander at turn 11. It's almost like going around a roundabout at turn 11. And then you fling the truck to the left through turn 12, over one of the humps again. There's a slight left kink to that part of the circuit. It's not perfectly straight down there. Just as you get to the bottom there, where Antonio is now, it does go slightly to the left. And then you've got to line yourself up for turn 13. Like I said a moment ago, it's nearly 270 degrees there to go all the way around on yourself, back through turn 14 and down the start-finish straight. As you can see, they're all spacing out slightly at this point in time. The outlaps here take nearly 3.5 minutes based on the pace that they're doing. Like I say, it's a very, very long circuit. It's 6 kilometres, give or take. You know, 5.99 kilometres is close enough. Across the line goes Jochen Hahn to continue on. Just to put it into context as well, Spa-Francorchamps, which is obviously a very, very long circuit, is 7 kilometres, almost on the dot in length. So it shows you just how long Slovakia ring is. It's only 1 kilometre less than that, which is why our lap times are so long. Obviously, the trucks aren't as quick as a TCR car or a GT car, but they still are very fast machines. If you've never experienced truck racing, I say this every broadcast, but honestly, if you've never experienced truck racing in person, I could not urge you enough to go and see it. It is just mind-blowing. I've been covering this championship now and been attending races in the British Truck Racing Championship for a couple of years, and still now you see them go past and you just can't comprehend what you're seeing. You know, I walk into a paddock, see the trucks up close, and every time it's like the first time, and you just think, what are we doing? This is bonkers, but it's lovably bonkers, really lovably bonkers. Such an endearing part of the world of motorsport to be involved with. It's a real niche, but it's always growing and it's always bringing in new fans. You can hear tyre squeals and all sorts of unwanted noises from a driver's perspective. That's either snatching a wheel on the brakes or getting a little bit eager on the throttle and spinning up the rears on the exit. And sometimes just understeer as well, because if you do go in too hot, the inertia and the momentum, as I was speaking to Norbert Kish about in Misano, is so important in truck racing that you can overdo it so easily. And there's this tiny percentage when you do push too hard that just throws everything out of balance and out of context. You've just got no chance really to get the thing slowed down. And it's very easy to push up to that limit, but then as soon as you step the tiniest bit over it, it's such a fickle line to try and walk on. There is Norbert Kish now coming out of turn 12 over the hump. You can see the truck even bouncing around slightly as it sort of tries to level itself. It's one of the things that we've always complimented Revace Racing and the wonderful Baloo on, is the fact that that truck is always so level and so stable. The actual platform of the thing really doesn't look phased at all. It's got a great contact patch with the road. The tyre always remains in really good contact with the floor, which is what's so important here. There's a lot of weight being dragged away from all four corners with the cab rolling around on top. Norbert Kish crosses the line. What's the lap time looking like? It's a 2:42.563, so not quite as quick as he went in qualifying, but still very quick indeed. 2:42.6 comes in from Jochen Hahn, 2:42.8 from Antonio Albacete. That makes them the top three once again. Sasha Lenz in 4th place now. Jamie Anderson back up to 5th as he was. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez 6th. Andre Kurzim 7th, just ahead of Steffi Halmers, only about 1/10 of a second between those two. And then behind them, Stefan Faas in 9th position. And what about Louis Requenco? He's just coming around the final corner now and crosses the line with a 2:52.5, so he's just sort of getting himself a banker lap in there just to make sure that he's got one on the board. Andre Kurzim, you can see there, slowing down on the right-hand side, same with Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. Steffi Halm is pushing on here because she knows she can do better. And I think now with a bit of traffic, she's just going to be winding it down slightly on this secondary lap. So then she can go for another fast run. All through the middle, look at that flying formation there as Stefan Faas goes through the middle. Andre Kurzim going past the traffic as well. Look at this, it's very busy down into turn 3. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez clearly wants to get some clear space and improve as well. In that queue, we've got Jochen Hahn, Steffi Halm, we've got Sasha Lenz and Jamie Anderson as well, all lined up. There's Norbert Kish and Antonio Albertetti on the inside of the circuit there. Stefan Fast going around them towards turns 5 and 6. That's one of the most tricky parts of the circuit as well, actually. Turn 5, the long right-hander, because then you're into turn 6 and you're on the brakes trying to get the truck tucked into the corner and get to the apex while also getting it slowed down and then speeding up again on the exit. It goes through all forms of movement around there. But I'm wondering now whether Stefan Fast will actually get a chance to have another time on the board here. That's why some of them are rushing, because they have to push now to make sure they're actually completing a lap to then get onto another fast one. Although he's got 38 seconds, so I imagine that'll be just enough. I think there was another truck ahead of him, which was Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. Doesn't look like it, though. I think he's overtaken him at this point. But Stefan's got a lot of hard work to do this season in the Promoters' Cup. He's one of the favourites for it, that's for sure. But with Jose Eduardo Rodriguez on the scene, it's going to be very tough. Because last season's two protagonists, Teo Calve, who eventually won the Promoters' Cup, and Jamie Anderson, who certainly took the fight to him all the way down to the final race meeting of the season, they are both no longer competing in that class. Teo Calve back to racing in the French Truck Racing Championship this season, and Jamie Anderson now moving up into the Titan classification for overall competitors. I think Antonio Albertetti and Andre Kursin both got onto another lap as well. Don't think anybody else managed to... No, they've not. I think some of them maybe hoped to do so, because they haven't just come into the pits. They've carried on and they're still on the circuit. Sasha Lenz, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Jamie Anderson there in shot, all carrying on. Louis Requenco as well has had a sort of slow middle lap, but because they take so long to get round a lap here, a 10-minute Super Pole session is maybe one fast lap and one cool-down lap, and that's it. That's why it's important now for Stefan Fast to really push on and get on with this lap time. You can see there around turn 6. So much going on with the way that the truck is behaving. And then you've got to try and get it tucked in for turn 7, which is this little left kink here. And once again, you find yourself on the brakes while trying to get it turned in as well at turn 8. It's not quite a straightforward 180-degree hairpin. Here's turn 8. You enter it sort of on a 45-degree angle to where the exit of the corner is, but it still feels like a much tighter corner than it is. It sort of opens up on the exit, and you can really push down towards turn 9 as well, which is where Stefan's just gone now. That's the same hump that they go over down towards turns 1 and 2, or between turns 1 and 2, I should say. Into turn 10. Left-hand hairpin at the bottom. That is a much more straightforward hairpin because it is 180 degrees, but it goes into another corner straight after it. Turn 11 and 12. Back over the hump once again. And you could see that it was almost like he hit the brakes there for Stefan, and that's because these trucks are governed to 160 kilometers an hour, 100 miles an hour. They are not allowed to go faster than that. On safety grounds, obviously, it's a 5-ton machine. They will go a lot quicker than that if you let them, but obviously on safety, we do not want them going over 100 miles an hour. And the drivers can get penalised if they are caught overspeeding for too long. They're allowed to blip over it, but they have to get back underneath 100 miles an hour very, very quickly. Stefan Fast crosses the line, and the time is a 2 minutes 46.403. So unfortunately for Stefan, he is 0.7 of a second off his best lap time there. And as you see there, checkered flag is out. Time to go is 0 and the session is over. Antonio Alberthetti did a 2:50.5, so clearly something not going quite right for him there on that second lap. And his best remains a 2:42.836, which means that Norbert Kish takes another pole position. That's going to be his 53rd pole position in the championship and another 100% record so far this season. All 3 pole positions going his way. I'm sure he and the team will be very delighted by that. And once again, Jochen Hahn alongside him on the front row as well. Jochen Hahn has the most pole positions, most wins and most starts out of everybody on our grid at the moment, and most championships. The only statistic he is still chasing to have a completely clean sweep is podiums, and Antonio Alberthetti has 282 to Jochen's 276. So it's likely this season that Jochen could surpass Antonio, but there's only 5 pole positions between them, 8 wins between them, and 6 podium finishes between them. It just shows you how good Antonio is, doesn't it? He really isn't anyone to be sort of disregarded in this championship. Neither of them are. Jochen a 6-time champion, Antonio 3-time champion. Unfortunately, we don't have Adam Lachko on the grid this year, who was the 2017 champion. But I believe in the last 11 years, 10 of those championships have either been won by Norbert Kish or Jochen Hahn. Because 11, 12 and 13 it was Jochen Hahn, and then Norby got a couple, then Jochen got a couple, then Norby got a couple. Anyway, we're going to go back down to Christina, who's going to see who we can have a chat with.
Yes, and we do have a chat with Norbert Kish, of course, getting prepped for an interview. Norbert, another pole again, 53rd pole position, but of course it's never business as usual. What is so special about this track?
Oh, I mean, it's really difficult, with these long turns and, the really rough surface. It's really heavy on the tires if you look at them. So you have to...
Could you explain to the audience how the tires look?
Well, I mean, they look very used, and we only did 2 quick laps. But, it's the circuit. It's really, really hard on the tires. So we have to go out, when we go out with the new tires in the first qualifying session, it was really good, even the lap time was better, and even though I was not even pushing really, because I was trying to take care of the tires. But then in the Super Pole, the grip was gone already, for the second quick lap that I tried. And already as I tried to make the first turn, it was understeer. And my lap time was worse in the Super Pole than what I could do in the first qualifying. So not happy with that. We have to figure out what we could do different so that we can keep the performance at least for a second lap, in the Super Pole, because it's very important. The Super Pole is the most important, and I am not happy with that. That I did a worse lap time in the Super Pole than what I could do in the normal qualifying before. So that's something that we have to think about.
But racing is also important. Good luck then for the race, Norbert Kish.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Chaz, as you can see, a bit gravel on the tires as well. Very, very good to see Norbert Kish giving us such a great insight for you all there sitting at home and in England, of course, Chaz.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's all the long, smooth turns here. When you look at it on a track map, you think, oh, that looks nice and, flowing as the circuit goes. But it can be a real nightmare for the drivers because of how long these laps are and just how long those corners are in general. Because when you have, like I mentioned before, a short, sharp apex, if it's just a little fast 90-degree right-hander or a little chicane, you can very quickly go in one direction, get it done, and then get on the throttle and out of the corner. But when you're trying to go around a corner like turn 13 here, that's 270 degrees, you've got to enter it at the speed that you think is right, but then maintain that speed all the way around. Because the corner is one consistent radius, you need to make sure that the truck isn't getting any quicker or any slower in a way that's going to completely upset the balance of the thing and make you run deep or make you run too tight to the apex. Then you get back on the throttle, then you start to run wide. There's so much of a knock-on effect by every little input that you do on a circuit like this, on corners like this. But look at it, it's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? here at the Slovakia ring. It may not be the most undulating and forest-dwelling circuit in the world, but it is a very, very pretty one. There is your qualifying result then. Norbert Kish on pole position by just 54 thousandths of a second from Jochen Hahn over a near 3-minute lap. That is pretty impressive, isn't it? Antonio Albertetti will line up third with Sasha Lenz alongside him. Jamie Anderson and Jose Eduardo Rodriguez will make up row 3. Then we have Andrei Kurzim and Steffi Halm, the two Ivecos, once again doing battle with 55 thousandths of a second between them. Then a bit of a gap back to Stefan Faas and Louis Requenco, who round out your top 10. Louis there just getting a banker lap in and knowing what he needed to do. And then at the back of the grid we have John Newell and Mark Taylor teaming up from this point forward in the championship as well, flying the flag for everyone here in the UK, and it's great to see that. And hopefully they will have a bit of a better race and, well, even better race too as well compared to qualifying. Someone that will be happy with qualifying is Jochen Hahn, and he's with Christina.
Absolutely. It was such a small amount of time in between you and Norbert Kirsch. So he is in his casual look right now, Jochen Hahn. But it was very tough being competing on Superpole. What did you miss? It was just a bit...
Every time it's a little bit so. But the good point is we make a step. From yesterday to today, a big step. And, it's every time a little bit. And 1,000th per second, it's not enough to beat him. So that's why we must, step by step, look forward. I'm very happy with the second place. So now it's coming the race. And then hopefully we make a small step and I can push.
Norbert Kirsch was talking about the long turns, which is very special about this track. What do you say with your experience? How difficult are those long turns?
No, on the long turns, and for example in the race, he have really not a benefit, but he handled it a little bit better than everyone. So from this side, when he wins the start, it's hard to overtake and follow him. That's true. In the moment.
Then we stay in the moment. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jochen Hahn.
He's such a wise man, is Jochen Hahn. As I said at Misano, he's always got an answer for everything you can ask him. He's brilliant to interview, though, because he's got such a neutral look at these things. He's very competitive. He really wants to be up there and continuing to win. He's still got the pace after all these years. He's competed in 649 races in this championship. It will be his 650th when we get the race underway later, which we cannot wait to see. However, he's just got such a great mindset because he's been there and done that. He's such a great, just in terms of the team itself as well, he's such a fantastic element to have as a team manager, and obviously the sort of, what do they call it now? I can't ever think of the word now. The spearhead of the attack, let's say, from Iveco. There's Antonio Albertetti and Tim Frost discussing their qualifying session. Antonio saying the corners are too long here, we need to sort it out. But again, Antonio has been around the block as well. He was 57 years of age going into the championship this season. Not quite sure when his birthday was, but Antonio is a real star of the series. We love having him around, and a great driver still, always right up there. Won a race, of course, in Misano. Tim Frost is a real character too. There's a hug between Antonio and Jochen. As he said at Le Mans, I believe it was in 2021, they are the old guys that are still battling with each other. He even took the mick out of Antonio's age at Misano when I said that he's an old sparring partner of his, and he just said, well, I know that he's old. That was all. But yeah, a great pairing as well to have on our grid, and plenty of experience. I mean, there's a lot of drivers in this championship that have got either near or over 300 race starts. Steffi Halm will be completing her 300th race this season. We also have, René Reiner is unfortunately not racing with us anymore, but he was near 300 races as well. And in just a season's time, Sasha Lenz will complete 300 races in the championship too. Norbert Kirsch on 348 starts, Antonio Albertetti 534, and then of course, as I mentioned before, Jochen Hahn 649. There is Baloo, the name of the beautiful red MAN that Norbert Kirsch races here in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. A fantastic piece of engineering. There's Csaba Bako on the right hand side of your shot, the team manager of Revesh Racing, a real character as well. And we're going to go back to Christina. That's all from me for now though, everybody, and I will see you again very, very soon.
Thanks, Jazz and Fonzie and Ebi. And you might notice where we are. We're here at scrutineering, but the paddock is far away from us, but not far away from us is the next race at 13:15, and race number 2 is at 16:45. Those are the 4 numbers that you should write down right now, because you need to see this. We do have a great competition here at the Slovakia ring. And to give you a farewell until then, we're going to show you some highlights from today.